morning, everyone. I say another round of applause for that last panel. My name is Janet Riley, and I am absolutely thrilled to be able to moderate this panel this morning as we have this conversation. I think it is going to be an interesting one, and I hope it will be enlightening. I'm sure it will be, gentlemen. You know, since the Me Too movement, we have heard more from women and a little bit less from men. And I think that's for a variety of reasons. But we know the reality of it is that if we as women are going to achieve pay equity in the workplace, if we are going to be able to advance our careers as men are able to advance their careers in their jobs, we need to have men as allies. And we all know that there are so many men, many of whom are in this room today, and certainly on our panel, who are our allies. And so it gives me great pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you so much. These are some of the really fantastic male executives that we have in this industry. So let's begin today with short introductions. So Don, I'm going to start with you and let you do a little bit of a self-introduction.
Well, thank you. Don Harrier with HCSF Architects here in San Francisco. We're a proud sponsor. This is an awesome crowd. Thanks for coming out.
Matthew Stevens, President and CEO of Bay Club Company. Got the whole crew here, so very excited to be here.
And good morning, my name is Paul Tormey. I'm the Regional Vice President and General Manager. You are in my living room. Good morning. Always one of the nicest rooms, but best looking. I've seen it in quite a while. So.
It's a great room. Good morning, I'm Tom Lerson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Two Roads Hospitality. We have 15 hotels here in San Francisco, and it's an honor to be here this morning. Thank you.
My name is Rick Tigner. I'm the President and CEO of Jackson Family Wines. We're the proud owners of the wineries like Kendall Jackson, La Crema, and many, many more. Glad to be here today as well.
Thank you. So Don, I think we're going to start with you. Okay. Do you have a story, can you remember of an instance of a time when you really championed or supported a woman in your workplace?
Well, I do. I'd like to start by saying that within our studio, we actually have 5 architects who happen to have spouses that work outside of our office. So there's some interesting insider knowledge on pay and compensation and so forth. 2 of them are women. They are in different stages in their careers. And they've both recently approached me and sat down and let me know that they're basically 20% lower in terms of compensation. And their husbands are getting promoted earlier and more often than they are. So wow. Okay, so let's start with pay equity. Our firm, we've 1,400 people, 26 offices. We're focused on pay equity, and that is something that we try to deal with respect to our own firm. Can't really control what's going on outside and other firms and their compensation levels, but certainly try to look within our own stature and see where we can get everybody aligned. Then it comes to promotion, and promotion is, as we all know, fairly subjective. Sometimes it can be based not necessarily on merit, but maybe somewhat who deserves, or from a popularity standpoint. So my path and what I try to reach out to these individuals and these particular 2 ladies is to concentrate and control what you can control. One of them at an earlier stage in her career is working toward her licensureship. That's a great thing that brings on greater visibility within the firm, and certainly with that, some added advantage with compensation. She also has a great passion for lighting design. That is something in our firm we don't have. So I'm encouraging her to look beyond just simply the day-to-day job, but to go a little bit further beyond that and begin to look how she can reach others in our office, our 26 offices. The other woman, same thing. She's in a little bit more of a senior leadership position, and we begin talking about visibility to the entire firm, what that might mean in terms of leadership, becoming a sector leader for our residential work, working with other regional leaders throughout the country, and then maybe a pathway towards my position. walking, towards a role in an office directorship. So those are kind of the conversations that I'm having. And in this case, with two very bright women that have a wonderful future in our firm, is just what that goal setting and what that path can look like for them.
That's great. Matthew.
Well, with the Bay Club Company, we're an active lifestyle experiential company, and our core customer is the modern mom, who is the key decision maker of the modern family.
Yes, we are.
So we basically have said the smartest part for us to do is to create an executive team that is dominated by modern moms. So you guys have had a chance of meeting Annie Appel, who was just up here as the moderator of the last panel as part of the process. And if you were to sit around our conference room and have a conversation about our product, which is trying to create active lifestyle experiential concepts for families, we sit around and talk about what happened last weekend and what happened as far as what did you do with your family? What did you do with your children? What did you do to create an experience in life? And what we have found is that the modern mom brings the strongest opinion to the table. Hence, that is a great outcome for us. And you'll see a significant number of leaders in our company here today that are modern moms driving our business.
Great. Rick, how about you?
Champion in a lot of ways. I'll give you two good examples. But in our company of 1,700 people, we have actually 80 women in the top 200 spots. Wow. And I only became the president 7 years ago, and that was not the case at that point. But what happens in some companies is this, is that you ask a supervisor, who's the best people on your team, and sometimes they hold people back. And that drives me crazy regardless of the gender. So in one situation, we have a senior EVP who works for me directly, and I've been trying to convince him to move up one of his staff members to be equal to him. But they always want to tell you how they're not quite ready for that. And so my example to everybody is, you as the boss have to reach down inside the system and pull greatness up. You have to do that. And so you got to reach beyond supervisors and directors and managers. So one example, as I'm sitting here right now, we're moving up a SVP to now work alongside her boss. And so I took what he said, but at some point, you are the judge and jury of your own team. You got to find greatness in your system. Okay, so that'd be one good example. Another good example is in the winemaking is a 24-hour job during harvest, just is what it is. And so we have 48 wineries, give or take, and we have quite a few women winemakers. But one of our winemakers, it's about work-life balance, right? And so even me and my boss, I work for a woman as well, and we talk about work-life balance all the time. So this lady had an issue at home. And so sometimes people are on a pathway to certain levels up in the organization. Well, we need to move her pathway to go in a different direction. So we created this thing called continuous improvement process, which a lot of companies have. And I took Elizabeth Douglas, one of our winemakers, and I put her in charge of continuous improvement process. And so you have to take some positions and reinvent them or recast them. And so we have lots of great positions in our company that can be run by a man, but can also be run just as equally or better by a woman. And so I'm always trying to find greatness throughout the system, almost regardless of gender. But almost when there's like a 50-50 tie, I tend to lean towards the female candidate as much as I do more than I do the man candidate. So those would just be two examples. Yeah, good.
Why is that, do you think? Why do you say that? You lean more toward the women candidates?
Well, one of the questions you may ask later is, who's your mentor? So I work for Barbara Banke, who's our owner. And so often we talk about gender favoritism. And what she would be concerned about is that we lean almost too much towards women just for the sake of doing it. And the answer in this room, no one wants to get hired or promoted because you're a female. You want to get promoted or hired because you are a qualified candidate.
Sure.
And so...
Right.
But there is the answer sometimes. I have another executive, Kelly Jones, who works for me, and she's always like, almost everyone who works for her is a woman. I'm like, every once in a while, can you hire a guy? Her answer is, well, when I find a qualified one, I'll hire him. So, because her team is highly qualified.
Right.
So I never get caught up of a team of 10. If 8 are men and 2 are women, that's probably the right thing. But if 8 are women and 2 are men, that's okay too. So you got to be able to judge your system, but you got to have women in the pipeline if they're ever going to get to the C-suite. And so that's one of my directions that my team has, and we work on it every day.
That's so true, and so important of what you said earlier about reaching down and finding that talent wherever it may be, at whatever level in the organization, because that pipeline is absolutely key. Yeah, I'm curious to know if any of you have had women mentors in your career, and Matthew, I think you have.
Yeah, so I was fortunate to work with Ann Beth Eschbach, who is the CEO of Exhale Spas, just got purchased by the Hyatt Company. And we worked together from 1994 to 2001. And it was fascinating to watch her career grow as she came up through an organization that was very much an old boy network environment, put the spa industry on the map, and was able to drive a career that today now she is one of the top female executives in the hospitality and spa industry. So I would put Ann Beth Eschbach as one of my mentors in my career.
And what did she teach you?
I think the interesting comment is that I've had this discussion with my team. It wasn't about male, female. She was a leader that I respected. She brought command to what she was trying to accomplish. She didn't think about herself as a female versus males. She simply decided that she had a career path that she wanted to establish in the hospitality industry. Right. She had a passion for the spa industry. She launched the Peninsula Spa in New York City and created one of the first amazing spa experiences. She launched the W Hotels new spa product when that product came on for Starwood. And it was never a discussion about, I'm doing this because I'm a female. Right. It was a discussion that I was looking to build a career and drive a career. And I looked up to her as a mentor, regardless of whether or not she was male or female.
That's great. Rick, how about you?
I've had a few in my life, but it was actually on the screen a while back. My mom told me when I was a kid, you know, it takes all kinds of people to make a world. And my mom never went to high school, so she wasn't maybe the smartest person in the world. But I think she brought me up to teach, treat people equal, regardless of who they are, where they come from. But I also have the good fortune of working for a woman. So when our founder passed away in 2011, his wife, Barbara Benke, became my boss. But I've been around with her for 25 years. And I said it just a minute ago, but the things that we talk about, it is work-life balance. And so she makes sure that I'm balanced in my work life as well. So it's not just we look after the women, we look after the men too. And so she's encouraging, us as an organization to not, just become all about work. It is about having a balanced lifestyle, et cetera. And I mentioned it a minute ago as well. We talk about gender favoritism kind of stuff. So she makes sure that I don't lean too much one way or the other. And so she's a good sounding board for me as well. And then we also talk about giving women a voice. So I do all kinds of town hall meetings. I do every new hire orientation because I want people to have engagement all the way through the system. And so the thing that we talk about with her is, it's giving women a voice, and it's sort of like see something, say something. And so when you see something that's going wrong, it's almost like what must be told eventually should be told immediately. And so those are discussions I have with her, and she's a good sounding board for me.
That's great. Have any of you at your companies in the recent past instituted new policies or procedures or trainings that specifically help women advance in their careers? And Paul, you might want to take this one.
Sure, thank you. Our company CEO, a gentleman named Sebastian Bazin of Accor Hotels based in Paris, has made it a significant goal and priority throughout our thousands of hotels in the world for two things. One is an organization called He for She. It's a United Nations started organization, I think in 2014. And it's a gender equality, equal pay, access type of a organization that all general managers and senior leaders within Fairmont and Accor Hotels had to sign up for or else. So we're on it, and we're working that through our system. And then we've created a pipeline as well within Accor called WAG, and it's Women in Accor Hotel Generation, I think is the acronym.
Like all the acronyms.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. But what this has done is set up a pipeline, really, of focusing on female talent within our hotels, creating a mentorship programs. We encourage the men in the organization as well to be supportive of their peers and of their subordinates and their equals to make sure that they're getting, I would call it probably more than a fair shake. at this point in advancement and training opportunities that are out there. We have a goal within the company by, I think it's the year 2020, to have 35% of our general managers across the globe in being female. And I just got back from a organizational meeting in San Diego where I found out that, again, throughout the planet, we're at 29%, which was higher than I thought it would have been. But I think we have 25 brands of hotels now, and I think we've been able to spread that number a bit. But our goal is to find women who want to be general managers and make sure that they get the support to do that. Several of you are in the room, and we see it as a very serious thing.
Great, congratulations on that.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
fantastic. And setting those concrete goals, I think, is really important as well. That's
Right.
great. Tom, how about you?
Now, very similarly, we have several of our leaders, by the way, are here, our general managers. So we're an organization that's global. We're in 7, 8 different countries, and we just started in the last 4 years, almost parallel to this group here, where we've created a women in leadership network internally. And we started with good intent, where I think the foundation of creating policy is the intent to build trust in your organization, where people can come forward and be able to say, this is working or this isn't working. And we want to be a disruptor. We want to do things differently. So what I love is that we were doing some things wrong. And we were humble enough to say those things. And our leaders were bold enough and courageous enough to come forward and say, let's do some things differently. Give us some latitude, and we'll run with this and make a change. So 4 years ago, we created this network. It started to really get traction. 2 years ago, it had 100 people. Now we have 350 people. We have a mentorship program. We've got a strategy that's going after at the core. I believe for us to be successful, some of you said it earlier, we have to start at the entry level. So going out and hiring out of the colleges and out of the university programs and out of vocational schools, an intent to have great diversity in our organization. If we're going to take care of our guests, we're in the hospitality business. We need to be a reflection of our guest in the way that we think, not just diversity in our gender or our color, but in our experiences and the way we go about doing business. And so our intent is to bring in that new diversity. Yeah. And I think we'll be a disruptor with the guest. We'll create internal organizational parity where people have a voice and we'll do things differently. Compensation, it's clearly a part of the equality, if you will. We're all looking at it. None of us have done it great. Our numbers are better. We can all rattle off our stats. I'm thrilled that 50% of our 18,000 employees are equal, men and women. 58% of our management team, exempt team, are females. But as we move up into the senior ranks of authority, the numbers become a little bit smaller. In our senior leadership positions, 35% are female. In our C-suite positions, we're about 25%. So we change the dynamics. So you see the numbers and you say, this is intent. It's not what we want, so let's change it. So less than 2 years ago, our entire executive team, our board of directors, if you will, we changed the complexion of that. We brought in 3 of our senior female leaders. We went to a 40% female organization where we didn't have that before. So the intent was there, the opportunity was there. Now when we are going out, we have intent, I'm going to say stuck on that word, to hire 50% in our management, 50% in leadership.
That's great.
And we clearly think that's the answer. So people doing the right things and doing it for the right purposes will get the right outcome.
I think you bring up a really important point, and I don't know, I'm sure many of you in the room saw Mark Benioff on 60 Minutes. And he said that he asked his HR director, who happened to be female, to do a salary survey, an internal salary survey, looking at their gender equity pay, thinking that they would come out shining. And he learned that there was a problem with pay equity. And then you do something about it. So I think many companies are afraid to do that. What am I going to find underneath the rocks? But it's okay, right? You can find something and then you make the changes. So I'm so encouraged by you saying, wow, we weren't quite there, and we're not committing to absolutely this, but the intent is absolutely. I think that's really, really
And
key.
I would also say the transparency.
The transparency.
There was so much secrecy in compensation and
Yeah.
benefits and those things for so many years. Now going out and saying, forget gender. This is what this role pays.
Right.
And if you're different colors, different ethnicity, whatever it is, this is the compensation standard. And being courageous enough to show it.
Yeah.
And say, here are the numbers, here's how we're going to organize ourselves.
Right. I applaud you. Rick.
I'll echo the same thing and just add one more thing. Yeah, we have mentorship programs, mentee, mentor, single groups. We do it a lot of different ways. Our senior director is, I'm looking right at him right now. Larry's sitting right there. Larry knows that our goal is pay equity. And the women on my executive team, they push back to make sure that we are transparent in regards to equity and pay and things of that nature. And so I want to keep that whole team intact. So we do that, like everybody else. We do bring in women speakers that talk about, guest speakers that talk about women in the workplace. We ask questions, we get involved. And not only do women attend those meetings, we ask the men to attend as well, just like in this room today. The one thing I still go back to is those kind of frontline managers and supervisors sometimes that don't give feedback to all their employees, but also just the women employees. And sometimes they hide from that. They shelter themselves from that. And so we have a program in our company called 3 Ups and 3 Downs. And so we want our employees to ask for 3 ups and 3 downs, or we want managers to give 3 ups and 3 downs. And I never care if it's 4 ups and no downs or 2 ups and 2 downs. It doesn't matter to me. Is that women in the workplace and men in the workplace want feedback. They just do. And what I saw when I first got on board was that managers hate conflict. Managers don't really want to manage. I'm just trying to tell everybody in this room that's not always the case. Okay? And so you have to force your management staff, high and low, to have feedback and engagement with your organization. So such a simple little thing, and we do monitor it to a slight degree. We want to make sure that our employees are getting feedback from their supervisors. And what happens with sometimes supervisors, especially where they come from, is they don't like conflict, and they don't want to have a discussion sometimes with a female worker because they're worried about the emotion. And I'm like, get over it to a certain degree. And so we have a program called 3 Ups, 3 Downs. If you don't have one, you should put one in place. Works pretty well.
Great. Speaking of full transparency and copying to things we don't always maybe do right, is there been a time when you made an assumption about a female employee that you found was absolutely not true? And what happened from there? Tom, I think you might have a story.
Yeah, I feel like a confessional here. This is now twice it
I'm your
starts with
priest
Tom.
today.
Did you make a
Priestess.
mistake? Yes, I did.
We're a very forgiving crowd.
Wow.
Depends how you-
I have so many stories here, but I'm going to tell a story of Maggie. Maggie is this leader. The good story today is Maggie is extraordinarily successful in what she does. But I met Maggie 20 years ago, and it was in a group like this, and we were actually in a panel, and I was highly intimidated. And she was the center of attention. She was, very extravagant in the way that she could tell a story and just command and just be articulate in everything that she was doing. And as we were standing after the panel was over, we're out in the corner, and she says, "You just seem so quiet and methodical." I'm like, well, "I'm sitting next to you. I mean, I got nothing to say." She said, "Well, I want to come work for someone that allows me to be myself." Wow. And so we ended up having a cup of coffee. A year later, I'd only talked to her 2 or 3 times. A year later, she calls me and she says, "I'm going to come fly. I live in Denver. Fly to Denver. I'm going to like to meet with you." She came in, and I'm telling you, my wife, if God is my witness, she would say, I was nervous that morning because it was a big deal. She had sent me a large presentation, everything she wanted to do. She is in the wellness field. Long story made a little shorter is she comes in and, again, controls a boardroom. I invited a few people to listen to her story. I absolutely had made the mindset that I couldn't hire her. She was so different from the rest of our organization. And I had a great meeting with her, took her down the elevator, walked her to her car, and she turned to me and she says, "You're not going to hire me, are you?"
Wow.
And I don't know why, but I took the dare. I was like, "Oh, hell yeah, I am." which I
knew
had
exactly what to
absolutely
say.
no intent of doing that. We hired her. She's now running a $50 million business for us. And I truly, also the godmother of my daughter.
Wow.
And she is just very, very different. She runs our spa and wellness areas. And what I learned from the mistake was I was judgmental. I was intimidated, I think maybe scared to get outside of the parameters of our corporate world at that time. And then today, I love to tell the story of Maggie because I think Maggie was a pivot moment for me, where you say, look, I'm not judging. What I need is to have someone that's different. We need diversity, back to that same theme. And in the end, she's now running 29 different spas around our country, and she's been with us for 21 years, and she's phenomenal what she's going to do. And the rest of her life, she's now written books, she's just done wonderful things, and she made us a better company, made me a better man, made me a better boss.
It's great. Well, you know what's interesting about that and how you made that decision was something that was talked about on the panel, on the first panel, which was you listened to your gut. There was something in your gut that said, I need to hire this woman. And that was a great choice for you, obviously, so congratulations. Paul, I think you have a story.
I do?
I think so. I heard you did.
Uh-oh. I've been lucky, I think, not to make a lot of mistakes in interviewing and seeing women and having too much of a preconceived notion. I don't have a Maggie, but I'm going to interview her. It's
Leave her alone.
There's only
someone's
one
writing
Maggie.
this down on my table, I'm sure. No, I really don't have one particular story.
Okay.
I've got a team that works with me here that I've made that probably that old male assumption that they want to work from home all the time. They're going to take advantage of mat leave and do all those things.
Yep.
And I'm a little bit ashamed of that because it's never been true. It's always been work harder, work more, prove themselves. And I think if it's just been very, very enlightening to me, particularly out here. I'm from Boston, and things are a little bit different in California, and particularly here in San Francisco, to the positive of how women have stood up way more than I have witnessed in the past. But no negative stories. I give them thanks for allowing me to kind of be who I am and try to do everything I can to help them. Because they are our future, and that's what I try to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about mentoring. It was mentioned earlier. We all know that mentoring is absolutely key. There have been numerous studies showing that mentoring helps people to advance in their careers, male or female. Since the Me Too movement, there was a pretty famous survey that was done that said that men are a little bit more fearful now of spending time alone with women in the workplace. Therefore, it makes mentoring a little more difficult between males and females. Has anybody seen that phenomenon happen in their community? And I think Matthew might, or in your organization, I think you might have a story.
I think the way we've approached things is to just put two people in the room for all conversations. And so don't worry about creating a mentor situation where you have a male and a female mentoring, but put two people in the room for those conversations and try to find the empathy that balances the right people to be in the room. It could be two females mentoring a female. It could be two males mentoring, could be a male and a female as part of the process. But create a collaborative environment for the conversation versus one-on-ones. I think the Me Too environment has everybody a little bit back on their heels, and instead take it as an opportunity to basically be collaborative, bring more people into the conversation, get different perspectives as part of the process, and try to help see it from different viewpoints as part of the process. We're fortunate being a company that's new in the hospitality industry, where we're a little bit of a disruptor, that we started off with a base of a high level of female managers and executives. So Our goal is to continue to have different levels of individuals inside the organization, mentoring the female executives up throughout the company as part of the process. But I want a balance of people in the room, a balance of conversation about how people are looking to develop their career, and focus on that.
All right. All right. Many studies also have shown, of course, mentoring is very important. Also, having a diverse workforce is key to a company's success, and that has been shown over and over again. Can you share a story, or have you seen that in your company where diversity has definitely led to a more successful company? Anybody want to take that, particularly Paul or Rick?
Sure. I mean, I think it was said a minute ago, diversity is hospitality. I mean, we have to look at what our world is. And if you're in a hotel like this, we see every shape, size, color, creed, language. I think we speak 34 languages in this hotel on a daily basis.
Right.
And we try to do everything we can when we hire our colleagues and we put everybody in the right place to mirror what society is. I think people want to be around people like them, and in a hotel environment, it's everybody. So I think that's something we try to do, and diversity is, I think, almost just a second nature for us.
Yeah, it's in your DNA.
I don't think we necessarily go out to be proactive to find diversity. We just have to, when it's there in front of us, we have to accept it and make it the best of it.
Great.
Make it an advantage.
I'll jump in too. I think diversity is a part of our DNA. It's strategic for us. So the one thing we look for is, to me, I think I have 9 or 10 reports. And what I always tell them about this is, I want 9 or 10 different types of people from different backgrounds. And I love conflict. I call it positive conflict. I want them to disagree on all kinds of things because I love the dialogue about it, okay? And then as a company, we have 4 pillars: people, lands, brands, and innovation, okay? And innovation is not only a pillar, but it's also a value. So to be innovative, we need people who come from different backgrounds, cultures, ages, genders, whatever it may be, to help us come up with new ideas. And so in our organization, we're all about how do we maintain water. Water is a big issue in our industry. So we have female leaders who head up innovation groups about water conservation. You know, wine loss, we have a female leader who heads up wine loss as an innovative idea. You know, when you have as many acres as we have in the ground, we're about soil health and about how do we maintain or minimize our carbon footprint. So we have lots of women leaders and input from different groups because it needs a diverse workforce to solve all the problems that we have as an organization and as a community. And so what they all said, we have programs for that. It's not necessarily, a policy, it's a direction. Right. And I think if you don't have a diverse workforce, well, then you're missing out on a lot of stuff that belongs in the community. If I had one challenge with that, it really is in production today in the wine business. Right? If you think about farm workers and vineyard workers and cellar workers, it is a very male-dominated part of our departments. But as jobs get better, more mechanization, things of that nature, we are challenging our organization to put more women into those positions. Because I'm always looking for, even sometimes we'll have a tractor driver or a forklift driver who's a female, I'm like, why don't we find someone in the operation there who wants to be the president and train them and bring them up through the system? So it takes diversity, it takes a village to raise a child, to a better degree.
And what a very nice end note that is. It does take diversity to make our companies successful and to have a more interesting workplace as well, I think, for sure. So thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate that you are championing women in your workplace. And best of luck to you all.